This is Lillian, and stay tuned after the podcast to listen to me and my dad.
Thank you for downloading this episode of the Nerdball Podcast. I am your host, Lorenzo. And this spot is reserved for anyone who wants to pay me some money to have their advertisement here. It is all open for you. It could just be a name. I think I'm creating a chart of like, all right, for this amount of money, I'll do this, say this name, for this amount of money, or for per month or whatever. But if you want to get in before the chart is made, then hit me up. The Nerdball Podcast at gmail.com is the website or the email. Thank you to all of you for always listening and downloading to this podcast. It's growing because of you. We are all over social media. Just search the Nerdball Podcast and search the Nerdball Podcast on YouTube. Subscribe. Hit that bell. Doesn't hurt you any. Helps us out a lot. So keep doing that. TikToks have been flying off the shelves lately. So keep following those. Just search the Nerdball Pod on TikTok. I found some pretty cool tools to make them. So they are coming out hot. Now I just need to make sure I am getting them out on time. So keep working on that. Again, thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode. It was a really good one. And someone that I listened to on the radio for as a child and growing up the past past years. So give it a listen. Let me know what you think. Hit me up on the Nerdball Podcast at gmail.com. Thanks.
Hey, it's Andrew Z, and you are listening to the Nerdball Podcast.
This is the Nerdball Podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
Perfect. All right, Andrew, thanks for coming on my podcast.
No problem, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too, because as someone who's been in my life for forever, as a just listening to you on the radio, it's a pretty cool thing for me, because you've were on the radio for so long and listening to you all the time, and now I see you quite often because our daughters twirl baton together.
Yes, I know. It's see you in person all the time. And here's the thing is, you used to listen to me on the radio. I watch you on the football field because my daughter is a majorette. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
Fun times.
So the first thing I always ask people is, what is something you nerd out about? Something you're really into, some hobby, something you do. It could be something brand new. It could be something you do your whole life. The point of this question is just to something that gets you away from work so that you can just wind down and do this thing.
Okay, well, it's going to sound weird because, we do radio every day, but that's not really my job. Like, I don't get paid to do radio. I have a food truck, and my wife's got a cleaning company. We have other things. So I don't get paid for radio like I used to. So I don't know if that can count, but media really is still what I'm fascinated with. And whether it's, over the air traditional broadcast, or whether it's podcasts, or whether it's TikTok, or just media in general, still is something that I nerd out on. And even traditional linear media like television, and who's changed at the Today Show, and the show changed over at this channel and whatever. So really, media I've always been fascinated by, and that's probably my biggest nerd out thing.
Can you explain so you do the radio, you just do it for funsies, or what?
Yeah, I mean, just like you do. Yeah, we do it for funsies. We do the morning, and it's funny because in the old days, when it's your job, you would do it all day long, and now we were on the air from 6 to 9. I usually get up around 4 o'clock and get the show ready, and everyone comes in a little bit before 6, and we just kind of BS for 3 hours, and then everyone goes about their day, and everyone has another job. Demetrius runs B-Dubs, and Kelly on our show, she's a realtor, and the other Kelly does at-home work. So we all and I go food truck. So we all have other jobs now. So radio is a hobby. It's what we do for fun, but still, after all these years, I love doing it.
Yeah, I guess if that's something you've just been doing for years, it's hard to get away from it, because it can turn into a hobby like it is right now. Like yeah, at one point you got paid, and it was cool to get paid for doing something you love.
Absolutely.
I did for a year or two. I worked for the Metro Parks. I did a podcast there, and it was cool to like get paid to podcast, because that's ultimately my goal. Like, hey, I want to get paid to do this kind of stuff.
Right.
And so I would imagine it just pulls you back in, right?
Well,
you
yeah,
can leave it.
I mean, I think once it's in your blood,
Mhm.
I mean, you just love doing it. Like, and the show has changed a lot in the fact that I think we're really good at what we do, and Demetrius and I have been doing it a long time, and we just come, in the old days it was, goofy stuff and stunts and phone scams and all that stuff, and we've stripped a lot of that away, and it's really adult conversation because as we've been doing this in this town since 2005, almost 20 years. Wait, 2005, 2000. Yeah, I mean, well,
Almost
not
20
20.
years.
Yeah, almost 20 years. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we've been doing it almost 20 years. And so people have grown up with us, and I think you just have different phases in life, and now it's more about really good conversation. It's still being goofy, and we have fun, and we laugh, but it's really more about the conversation than it is about the other stuff. And I think people enjoy it and appreciate it.
Yeah, when you hear radio, you think of like, especially like morning radio shows. I laugh because it's so funny to me, like on Parks and Rec, where they have I forget the first guy's name. Ira and the douche.
Yeah.
Like they have just weird
Right.
names like that. But you graduate to, like you said,
Yeah.
now, like that's 20 years ago. You graduate to these things, and it's still fun, and you just got to change it because after a while, you change it to what you want to do. You're like, hey, if I want to be here, I'm gonna do what I want to do.
100%.
This is fun, right?
100%. And it's like having conversations with my best friends. It's it's really it's the best part of the day from 6 to 9 for us. And then at 9 we all leave and go about our day. So yeah, it is the best part of the day for sure.
Is it hard to be on a show? Because sometimes, like, I'm doing another podcast tomorrow and it's me and 3 guests, and sometimes it can be a little chaotic, trying to manage all that. I would imagine it is difficult at the beginning, but once you guys get into a flow and you guys all know each other, it makes it a little easier.
100%. And it's also a lot easier, I think, if you're in the same room. I think it's a little bit harder over, whatever Zoom or whatever Skype or anything. It's a lot easier if you're in the room, but it's also a lot easier if you've been doing it for a long time. And you start to get the flow of the other people. I really couldn't do a show, I don't think, by myself, because I get bored with the stuff I'm gonna say. I like having other people to where I don't know what they're gonna say, and I'd rather have that spontaneous conversation with people. And that's why we have, not only do we have regulars, but we also have a lot of guests, so they come in and you don't know what they're going to talk about. And yesterday we had these girls on, Brittany and Meredith. They host the Family Trivia podcast.
Oh yeah, I know Meredith. Yeah.
Okay, so their podcast gets 2 million hits a year.
Yeah.
And but Meredith came in, or Brittany came in, and was talking about how her traumatic childhood with a hamster. I wasn't expecting that on Friday morning, but but that's what we came in with, and that's what I love about it, just the spontaneous conversation. And if I'm by myself, I know what I'm going to say, and I know what I think, and I know, it would get probably stale to me.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. Sometimes every once in a while I'll put out an episode. Like if we go on vacation, I'll sit and talk about it just because it's fun. And I try to think too, like, all right, maybe 10 years from now, my kids will hear me like talk about this vacation we went on and that kind of stuff. And sometimes I surprise myself. Like I get done, I'm like, oh man, I just talked for 25 minutes, and then I was like, was that good? I don't even know if it was good.
Right.
I don't know, but it is, you're right. It is very difficult to just sit and talk by yourself. And some guys, like Bill Burr, does it every week on his podcast. Yeah. It's just him and he just talks. It's crazy.
Well, there are guys that do it, and there are guys that do it well, but the ones that do it well are not as many.
No.
And again, I want to, if I'm doing this, and especially I'm getting up at 4 a.m, I want to have fun doing it. Yeah. And I mean, I wouldn't want to sit here and just talk to myself for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. It just wouldn't be fun to me. And if it's not fun to me, then I can't guarantee that it's fun for people listening.
Well, the audience feels that they feel if there's fun, if you guys are having a good time, or if it's not good, they feel it. And like, well, it's I don't want to be here if they don't want to be here,
Right. And it's funny because as radio changes, and they call it a depreciating asset, meaning that I mean, it might be here 5 years, it might be here 10 years, it might be gone in 2 years. I mean, with the changing landscape and how quickly it's changing, we don't know how long traditional radio is going to be here. And so a lot of these big companies that own these stations, they're cutting and cutting and cutting. And they're like, well, why do we need 5 people in the studio when I can pay 2 people or one person? Because you can't quantify to people that don't do it what chemistry is and what a vibe in a studio is, and they just see you as a number that they're paying, as opposed to, hey, the vibe is different with 5 people as opposed to 2 people. Like for me, the perfect show is 5 people. I don't know why, but 6 and 7 starts to become too busy, too much talking over each other, whatever. 3 is not quite enough. For some reason, that sweet spot is about 5. And if you look at shows on television, The View or the show The Five or any of those panel shows, they generally have, that sweet spot of 4 to 5 people.
Yeah.
And that's really the number for chemistry wise that I think that you need for your best show.
We've been, we're talking about now current, like what you're doing, but how'd you get started in this business and what made you want to do it to begin with?
Well, I've been doing it since 87. Well, I graduated in 87 and then went to a broadcast school out. I was from LA. Okay. And I went to a broadcast school out in Hollywood called Los Angeles Broadcasters. And I went there for 2 years until 89. And then I got my first job in a little tiny town of 5,000 people. And there wasn't a stoplight and there wasn't a Walmart and there wasn't anything. It was just a little town called Sparta, Illinois. And I moved from LA to there. And when I was 18 and or was I 20? I think I was 20. So when I was 20, I left my home and have done radio ever since. And still, to me, it doesn't seem like it's been that long. It's still fun to me. It's still interesting to me. So I still love it.
What do you remember? Yeah. Do you remember because with most people, most jobs that adults get, there was like a pinpoint, like, I remember my dad did it, or my friend's dad, or my friend got into it. Do you remember like listening to the radio or something that like immediately was like, yep, I want to do that. I want to be on radio.
Yeah. When I was a kid growing up, I used to listen to Rick Dees in the morning. And Rick Dees, I mean, Rick Dees, most people still know him, but I got to grow up and listen to him every morning. And it was Rick Dees that really inspired me to do this. And it's funny, I had a radio station for about a year. We don't have it anymore. We moved over. We were on Party 103.3, which was a station that was my brainchild. That was a station that I launched. And then now we're at 107.7 The Wolf. But when I had Party 103.3, I was able to put Rick Dees on in middays after me. Just to syndicate. He did a bunch of stations, so it's not like he was just working for us. But it was a very full circle moment for me to be able to, a guy that I grew up listening to and really started me in the business now was on my radio station. So that was pretty cool for me. I remember him telling a story once about when I was a kid, when I was going to Los Angeles Broadcasters, someone that knew Rick Dees told this story, and it was a Muhammad Ali story. Because when you're doing morning radio out in LA, all the celebrities are listening to you. This is before you had, I don't know, a billion places to go and streams and podcasts and all that stuff. You listen to the radio. And Rick Dees would go out in the middle of commercial breaks or whatever, and he would go get some fresh air at the back door at Kiss FM in LA. And one day he opened the door and Muhammad Ali was standing there. And Muhammad Ali said, "Can I just come watch you work?" And so Rick Dees brought Muhammad Ali in. He just sat in the corner. He said, "You want to come on? I want to talk, be part of the show?" He goes, "No, I just want to watch you work." And he stood in the corner, and Rick Dees said he was there for a while, and then next thing he looks up and he's gone, and he just left. And then a couple weeks later, Rick got a pair of signed boxing gloves from Muhammad Ali, just something like, thanks for letting me hang out on the show. So, I mean, doing the show out there, I mean, I'm sure it had to have been magical knowing that the people that are listening to it. I don't know why that story started, but but anyway, that's what got me started in the business.
That's great. Yeah. Rick Dees, I remember listening to him. I also, as we were both dropping our daughters off at a birthday party in Grand Rapids, and we were driving back. And my grandparents live in Hamler, Ohio. And so every weekend, or seemingly every weekend, we would make the drive. My grandparents would come get us. We lived in Toledo at the time, and drive us out to Hamler. And we're driving back, and I told my daughter, I said, Lil, I used to make this drive every Sunday with Gigi, and we would be driving here listening to Casey Kasem. And,
Yeah, it's
it's so
funny because
crazy.
when I was going to school at Los Angeles Broadcasters, they would set you in internships.
Mhm.
And one of the internships was I did American Top 40 with Casey Kasem.
Oh,
Now it was he had already left and started his own show. I don't know how they parted ways, but then Shadow Stevens took over for Casey Kasem. So I was actually interning for Shadow Stevens, but it was the same show, but it was just a new host.
yeah.
And it must have ended badly because I remember, even though it was a long time ago, I remember a dartboard in the office with a picture of Casey's face on
No.
it, and they would throw darts at it. So, and I only interned one day, but just sitting in the studio and watching them record the American Top 40 was amazing. And I actually took one of the scripts. I don't know if they gave it to me or if I took it or what,
Yeah.
but anyway, I had one of the scripts, and just listening to Shadow Stevens, who's got an amazing voice, work. It was pretty cool. But yeah, man, I've always been a radio nerd from when I was a kid, for sure.
You mentioned getting your first job in Sparta, Illinois. I would imagine being in this industry, it leads to a lot of moves.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was in Sparta, Illinois. I was in Carbondale, Illinois. I was in Dubuque, Iowa. I was in Wisconsin, Green Bay. I was in Appleton, Wisconsin. I was in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I was in Des Moines, Iowa. I was in Flint, Michigan, Saginaw, Michigan. This is actually the longest place that I've ever been somewhere. And reason being, my ex-wife, she was in television. So it's hard to get a radio and television job in the same city, but so when we could do it, we would move. And we moved here, we split up. So you kind of end up staying where your kids end up staying.
Yeah.
So I was either going to go get a job somewhere else and leave the kids behind, or stay here and finish things out. So this is what we ended up doing, is just staying here. So I've been here by far the longest of anywhere else, but I've lived in 10 or 12 different cities. It's always fun, a new city, a new station. You get I don't know, you get just an energy from it. I mean, kind of like you with coaching. I mean, I'm guessing you're not leaving here, but if you were to go to another school, and I'm sure you get the same energy, and it's the newness. I mean, it ends up wearing off after a while, and then you decide whether you like that city or don't like that city. But there is a fun to moving. But as you get older, it's not as fun.
Well, you hit the nail on the head with, especially with comparing it to coaching, because that is a thing. Like, coaches will move around. Obviously, it happens more in college. You'll tend to move around more, and that was here too. Like, there was a couple times I tried to get a couple head coaching jobs. I applied at Northview and applied to few other schools and had some interviews, and then it got to the point where my kids are a certain age and we're not leaving Perrysburg. So I can't imagine coaching football for a different school, never seeing my son play if he continues to play, and then never seeing my daughter twirl with the band. Like, so I told our head coach, like, hey, I know like that my goal was to be a head coach and go other places, but I'm going to be here for a while. I just want to let you know, like, I'm done with all that. So this is where I'm going to be. But it's the same thing. Like once you got kids and you're putting roots down, it's hard to leave that.
Well, that's the thing too, is I went through legal issues, and if you don't know, you can look them up. So you just Google me, and they're all there. But we were off the air for 5 years, I think it was, from the last station where I was fired with my legal issues, and then doing this now. And I'm like, man, the thing that's been my identity, the thing I've done my whole life, my kids aren't really gonna know, what I do. They're like, you just, I don't know. I struggled for the last 10 years. I've struggled, in finding my way. When you've done something for 25 years and then that's taken away from you, it's like, well, what is your identity now? Like, what are you going to do? So, they've seen me do a million things in restaurants and whatever, but being back on the air now for, about a year and a half, couple of years, and they see, and they can turn on the radio and hear, that is fulfilling to me. Not that they care, but for me, it's like, well, at least they know what I actually do, or what I've always done, to where there was a time there where I didn't think, as kids at the age that they knew that I would, like, what's your dad do? I have no idea what he does.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, that would have been the answer.
Yeah, and that's one thing. I do this podcast. It's fun. People listen to it, this and that. But like, my daughter will put on episodes from time to time. She comes on too. We're gonna do one after we're done here. She wants to come on the podcast and talk. And the one she always puts on is the one where that Maisie and Ellie were on. So she always listens to that one. But to go back to what you were saying, like it is a cool thing for me too. Like, oh, my kids can come on here and hear, see different people that I talk to and see how I talk, interact and all that kind of stuff. Like it's just like an extra thing. Same thing with coaching football, or I took my kids to work yesterday so they could go ice skating while I was working. Like it's cool I want them to experience what I experienced, just so they're aware of the world and not just not just playing video games in their basement.
Well, and that's the thing too, is my kids, because they spend more time with their mother. We've been apart for 10 years. They spend more time with their mom. I think they take on more of her personality traits. So they're more grown up. They're more reserved. They're more, they're not excitable like I am for the most part, and so they have taken on more of those personality traits. So like, I mean, my kids, they have a radio station in their house and they couldn't give two craps. They don't, I mean, when I'm at a studio at 9, the studio is empty and it's quiet and the lights are off. And like, if I would have had this when I was a kid, I'd be making podcasts and learning everything about it and doing all this stuff. They have no desire, no interest whatsoever. I don't know what that is, but I mean, that's just the reality of the situation.
As long as, because for so long people were like, well, what if Mateo doesn't want to play football? I was like, well, then he doesn't want to play football. As long as he's doing something, I would imagine you're the same way. Like, okay, they don't like what I like, but they got other interests, and as long as they're putting 100% into that, whatever they're doing that day, then that's good.
Oh, 100%. They love baton, and they put every waking moment into that, and it's been successful for them. So yeah, no, that is definitely that's a good thing.
And why you bring that up, your daughters are like, and I told Maisie and Ellie when they were on the podcast, like it's a huge thing. And I hope they understand this. And I think as they get older, they do, is how much they influence the little girls there. And, as they get older, I think like I said, they do realize it. But you can be 2 years older and they're looking up to you. Sure. And I think your daughters are well aware of it and do a really good job of watching and helping. And I know Lillian loves them, and she loves talking to them. She loves talking about them. If they're giving her a private lesson, I know when Ellie comes back, she always like makes things for Ellie, like all these things. Like, but they're a big part of her love for baton.
And I think that they get a lot of that from their mom, but they are very they're kind, and they are very passionate about it, and they're disciplined. They're very disciplined, where I'm not disciplined like they are. And they've done a great job, and they do understand, especially Maisie, my oldest, understands, that she, when we go to other team, like I remember going to see her twirl with I can't remember. It might have been Whitmer. I don't know where it was, but the girls from the other team wanted to come over and take a picture with her. So I mean, she realizes that that they look up to her, and she does do a good job with that responsibility.
Yeah, because it is a big responsibility, and some people can shirk it off, but it takes a special person to be able to do it.
It's funny because there's this girl that Kensley absolutely loves and always has, and she's got her own baton TikTok, and I mean, she's really an amazing. I mean, she's the best I've ever seen in person, and but yet, I mean, she just has no interest in being a role model. She just doesn't, and it's she's like, they'll say she's just not real nice. and it sucks because these girls do look up to them. So when they, man, I bet you've met a hero or two, or I've had a chance to, where they don't live up to in person what you would hope that they would be. And I think that happens with a lot of people, but I think my girls do take that responsibility for sure.
Yeah, it's a big deal. You did. I don't want to dwell on it, but the only reason I want to bring it up is you did about your legal troubles, and like you said, you can Google them or whatever. You're well aware.
Right.
People know about you and that kind of stuff. But what I do want to make a point to say is,
sorry, my youngest jumped in. I heard what you said.
Yeah, what I do want to make a point to say is that it's important for people to understand like things happen to other people. And as a mother who she's actually celebrating her sobriety date today on the 17th, but as a mother who's gone through that, my brother passed away from a drug overdose. Like I know all these things, and I like giving people second chances, and not everyone does that.
No.
And that's why I kind of want to bring it up. Like you do have to work harder, and that's mostly your fault for what happened, right?
100%.
But there has to be a little bit on the other side saying like, hey, this guy or this woman deserves a second chance here.
Well, here's what I say is, do I think that I got treated totally fairly? No. I mean, do I think I was targeted for who I am? Maybe a little bit. But here's the bottom line: is I know that I made poor decisions that put me in the position to allow me to let others dictate what happens with my life.
Yeah.
So if I wouldn't have started those chain of events, none of the other stuff would have happened. So who can I really blame besides myself? So, I hold, which helps me hold no ill will, no animosity. Did what I did. It's been a rough 10 years to get back to some semblance of normalcy. But again, I can't blame anybody but myself. And all you can do is learn from your mistakes. I mean, and then move forward. I mean, that's one thing I think that hopefully my girls see is that I don't give up, because I've had a lot of things crash on me over the last 10 years. Again, when you've done the same thing your whole life, and then you got to find something new, then there's going to be failures there.
Yeah.
And my failures and successes, whatever, is all done in the public eye, because people, in a small town, people know who you are. When they say you're Toledo famous, so you see that, and so, but it's okay. I'm in a good place, so thank God.
Well, it's good to hear. Yeah, it's good to hear. And just speaking, of something new, how do you go from doing radio for something, and then you're like, yeah, I'm gonna get a food truck? Like, how does that come about?
Well, okay, so here's what happened was, I dabbled in food. Well, during my radio days, I had a restaurant for a little while out at Levis Commons, and I did pizza and loved it. And we did that, and it was super successful. But the rent at Levis Commons is $12,000 a month, and you got to make a lot of pizzas to do that. Yeah. And I didn't have any experience. I just jumped into it. And so I didn't know a lot of things. And so I've learned. I've done several restaurants now over the years, and failed at some and succeeded at some. And during the pandemic, a friend of mine had a bar that was closed, but he had a kitchen that wasn't being used. And I said, what if I just use your kitchen? And so I created like a ghost kitchen. So I had like 10 restaurants on DoorDash under working all out of this kitchen. And so I did that for a year, and able to save up enough money to then buy a food truck. And we're coming up on our 4th season now.
That's cool. And the name of the food truck?
Queso Kitchen.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned Ghost Kitchen. I just listened to a podcast. I didn't realize that this was a thing, where it is like you're on DoorDash and you order you want pizza. All right, we got that. We want this, and they're all like different named restaurants. But if you dive deep, it's all the same address.
Well,
but it was like, man, what is this thing? It was a pretty cool podcast where they explained like how this happens.
Well, things come. Some stuff like that comes and goes. Like, I don't know if Ghost Kitchens were here, and then I think they almost died as fast as they were big. But yeah, I had Bitch Don't Grill My Cheese, which was a grilled cheese place, and then I had I don't remember all of them, but one was Just Wing It, and we did wings. So it's basically, what you do is, if you've got 5 sections to your menus, if you go to a restaurant, you have, if you have a wing section, or you have a chicken, you have a burger section, you have whatever, and it's basically just splitting all those up and giving each section a name of a restaurant, so that restaurant specializes in just that one thing.
Got it.
So that's kind of how it worked. But like I said, I haven't seen a lot of. There's still some ghost kitchens out there. I think even the big restaurants got into it. Like now, I don't know, like Chuck E. Cheese
I think
Pizza.
Bar Louie had one.
Yeah, they did. And Chuck E. Cheese Pizza did like Pizza Squally or something like that. I don't know who'd want to order out shitty Chuck E. Cheese pizza, but
Can I tell you?
Can we swear or can we not swear?
Oh, you can swear. You can swear.
All right.
Can I tell you though? I don't know what it is, and maybe it's because I go there once every 5 years. Chuck E. Cheese pizza. Sorry. Chuck E. Cheese pizza isn't that bad to me. I don't know why.
Okay. It's easy to hate on. Well, because it comes with drunk parents usually attached to it,
and snot and tears. Yeah.
Right. Actually, we've talked about this. We talk about food a lot on the show. My favorite pizza is Village Idiot pizza. I mean, I'm a thin crust guy, and I like a lot of toppings, and so for me, Village Idiot is the best pizza around. And it's funny because my uncle worked there for a few years, and their stuff's all frozen. Like their crust is frozen, their sauce is out of a can. But I don't know why when it comes together, it's magic.
Yeah,
and I'm like, because as a pizza guy, I always said you have to have a high quality sauce, a high quality crust, and a high quality ingredients, and you make a great pizza. And they poo-pooed on all of that and make the best pizza. So maybe I was doing it wrong all these years.
I do enjoy Village Idiot. My brother-in-law Jake Paluski does the.
That's your brother-in-law?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
We are married to sisters. So
no way.
Yeah.
Wait, you just blew my mind. Yeah. I was today years old when I knew that. Yeah,
his wife is the older sister to my wife. Yeah.
Oh, so, wow, that's funny.
Yeah, so he does a lot of music there, and I don't get to go to a lot of those Friday ones because I'm always working, but I've been to a few, and those things are banger. Like it's so crowded. Jake said people start getting there like 9 a.m. lining up just to get in. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, the day drinkers thing that he does now once a week is pretty incredible what he's been able to build.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And he does the listening loft at Levi and Lilac, which is shutting down. There's one more show, but he's gonna be moving it around. But he's doing a lot of stuff.
Well, you're gonna be today years old when I give you some info. I discovered Jake Paluski.
Did you? How did that go?
I did. Back when I was at Kiss FM.
Yeah.
And Diddy was doing a show called Making the Band where he put a band together.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I did Making Z Band on the air, and Jake was my lead singer of Making Z Band. Now, we only had one show, but he was the star of the show.
Nice.
I'm surprised he doesn't talk about it more in his bio because without me, there would be no Jake Paluski.
I will bring it up next time I see you.
Yes, I'm sure he'll enjoy that.
Oh, that's funny. Well, I'm sure you've come across a lot of people like that where like, hey, I met this person when, and now they're big doing whatever.
Oh yeah. I mean, I met Britney Spears on her first tour ever. She was opening up for NSYNC.
Oh yeah. Can I tell you, my wife would because at one point she was into O-Town. And I
was on stage with O-Town.
Oh, were you really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she still every year to this day they still tour. So she goes watches O-Town, but she would go buy NSYNC tickets to watch O-Town and then leave. And
no way.
And they wouldn't even watch NSYNC or Britney Spears because at one point Britney Spears was then headlining and O-Town will open for her and then she would just take off. Yeah.
Dude, that is so. So does she? I mean, by now at the point of the career they are, she should know them, right? Does she know them?
Oh yeah, they know them pretty well. They still go. They'll get the VIP things. They took the kids one time. Our kids went and checked it out. It's fun. It's I'm not a huge concert guy, but I do enjoy like small venues. I went to see Story of the Year a few weeks ago in Cleveland, and it was a smaller venue and I had a lot of fun there. But yeah, she loves it, and she used to watch them 7 times a year. She'd follow them around and do all kinds of stuff.
It's funny. My ex-wife was really into NSYNC, so we saw them probably 15 times.
Yeah.
And then she was also into Matchbox 20 and Rob Thomas. So at one point, we had met Rob Thomas like 5 or 6 times. And finally, I told Rob, I said, Rob, please remember her because I'm tired of having to meet you over and over and over. So if you remember her, maybe she'll stop trying to meet you and we'll be all good. And he started laughing. So
yeah, but you were saying, you met Britney Spears and like I said, go along with all these other people you probably met. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I've been very fortunate and it's funny because now I'm really in the point where if my kids aren't involved, experiences aren't, we have a little one now. But the experiences are now for them. I almost feel like I live my life, and boy, I've been very fortunate. And now I'm at the point where, I'm kind of living for them. I'd rather experience it through their eyes than I have to like go out and experience stuff myself. Cause I'm pretty experienced out. Like I'm very comfortable with doing nothing.
Yeah.
But, and it sucks for my wife because my wife now, she wasn't with me through all the fun and craziness. So she missed out on some stuff, but it's not a bad life.
I don't know what it is, but I do enjoy seeing famous people. It's like I don't need, like, I love autographs, but I don't need autographs to like sell them. I just have them.
Yeah.
Like this jersey back here signed by Charles Nagy.
Uh-huh.
Like I just like getting those things. I went to
Yeah.
the Hall of Fame probably 4 years ago now, and watch all these famous guys in their Hall of Fame jackets be 3 feet away from me, and it's just cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. And the same thing though, but like being a part of it, my dad was there, and he couldn't care less about like trying to see all these famous people. But I don't know. I just enjoy fame.
I don't know what it is, but I mean, you're definitely not. I mean, look at Donald Trump. I mean,
Yeah,
when you think about it, because of his fame is where he is today. So, I mean, there are a lot of people in this country that feel the same way as you. It's not like you're out on an island. I mean, that's pretty normal.
Sure.
And I like, I like meeting famous people as well. One of my friends, I mean, if your friend scale is 1 to 10, and let's say 10 is your best friend, I mean, we're maybe on a 2 or 3, but Pauly Shore has been a friend for many years. And there's times where he would come over to our house and he'd hold our kid and we'd walk outside and they're like, was Pauly Shore at your house? Or when he would come to town, I would drive him around and we would, go get lunch or whatever. But so yeah, no, I enjoy famous people. That, I mean, their life is fascinating. The difference in the monies, I mean, it's just a different level. I mean, I can't imagine living on having to make $2 million a year or $3 million a year just to be able to live. It's just a different world.
Was there meeting actresses, actors, musicians, all this stuff as you're on the radio? Did that ever change? Like maybe I want to like try to do some of that, or was just your thing just the radio?
No, my thing was always just the radio and them coming to town or on the phone or whatever, and then just interview. I love interviewing people, but yeah, no, I mean, I can't act, I can't sing, so I didn't really have a talent. I didn't have a talent like that. So just being myself on the radio, and I think that's one thing that, coming back to it, that's what we do well. We're just being ourselves. We're just hanging out in the studio with some friends and having conversation and goofing on people. And the great thing is, I mean, if you come in the studio and you're sensitive, then you're probably going to have a hard time. Because we're going to bust your balls and you're going to bust my balls. But I think that's what most people do in their friendships. And that's what we do here. And it's fun and it works.
Yeah. Yeah. That, you mentioned interviewing people, which obviously I like to do as well. I have, over 200 episodes now where I'm just interviewing people, and, it is fun. And people ask me like, how do you prepare this and that? I go, I don't prepare at all. I found if I prepare, then I'm like focused on my questions as opposed to listening, and I do my best, and it might come with a little more ums and ands and that kind of stuff, but I'd much rather listen, and then if I have a question that fits, then I'll ask it. If not, then it's a question based on what they just said. Like it is I want to say it's easy. The preparation's easy because there is none. The podcast, it's a little bit harder because I want to sound good and make sure everything's going well. But this is how I like to do it. When you interview people, I'm sure it depends on what you're doing as far as your preparation. But how does that go for you?
Man, honestly, it's very similar to you. I do very little prep. I think I'm pretty good at doing interviews by now, so I don't do a lot of prep. But I will say that there are times where you've done an interview, you're like, God, that sucked. Like, I don't know, my questions didn't roll, and or their vibe was off, and my vibe, whatever it ends up being. There are times when you do it like that. I think that I mean, I don't know about you, but you get off the air, you're like, oh, that sucked.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, it's worked out for me. But yeah, I don't do a whole lot of prep when it comes to interviews. I may have a one sheet of, you'll need to know what they're plugging or whatever. And so, but other than that, no, I'm pretty much like you. Maybe I'll look them up to see what a couple movies they were in, and then usually I get questions from there, and we just kind of roll with it. I've always been the same way. It's just more, I'd rather have more of a conversation than having questions that need to be asked.
That's right. I tell people when they come on, like I always start with interview, but it's been, the question has always been more from the, it's a what's your podcast about? Well, it's interview / conversation. Like I do ask questions, but if you have questions for me or you want to talk about something in particular, like we do that too. Like it's not just question answer, because that's boring to me. Like I don't want question answer.
Right.
I want all these zigzags everywhere and doing all these other things and talk about this. Kids coming in the room. You know how many times that's happened? That happens very often. Where it doesn't bother me. My kids, at this point, my kids are older. They know not to come downstairs, and if the door's shut and I'm down there, they're not going to come down here. But it still happens from time to time. But that's organic. That's life, man. And that's what I want.
Well, and it's cool too, because I've got 5. Well, my wife has 2 daughters. One's 17, one's 14, 16 and 14, and then I have 2 daughters, 17 and 14, 17 and 13. So she had 2 girls. I had 2 girls. We got married, and we had one who's now 5, and that's Josie. So she just loves the older ones, and it's such an interesting dynamic now to see. Like when my 5-year-old came in and said, Macy's coming to pick me up, we're going to go do something. She was so excited because she loves hanging out with her bigger sisters. And I think when siblings, I was only child, so I don't have it, but it's kind of what I see when siblings are close together. Then they may have good relationship, they may have bad, they fight, they do whatever, but you can't fight with a 5-year-old if you're 16. So it's almost more of a I don't know, a mother figure maybe or whatever. But I love seeing the dynamic of the older ones with the younger one.
Oh yeah, because it helps you too, right? Like, hey, I know as soon as I got my license, my dad's like, all right, now you got to start picking up your sisters at this practice, taking them there, doing this, doing that. I'm like, oh my god, all right. But
it's interesting. It's interesting when my wife and I separated, and she said, she wanted a divorce. My first wife, well, it was my second wife. I said, once you make this decision, you are choosing to be out of your children's lives for 50% of the time. Are we really okay with not seeing our kids 50% of the time? And obviously her wanting to be with her kids 100% of the time and hating me one. So no, I'm just kidding. So anyway, so we ended up getting a divorce, but what was the point of that? What was the point of the story? It was, at first it was weird, but it's nice. My wife and I are able to have our own time, because she's got 2 girls from previous marriage. I have 2 girls from previous marriage, and we've lined it up so they go to the other houses on the same days.
Oh, okay.
So that we can have some time together, and all we have is the little one. And sometimes we can shuffle the little one off somewhere too, because it's hard to get time when you have kids like that. It's hard to get time on your of your own. So
I get it. Yeah.
But it's not. That's why people are like, you have 5 kids. Oh man, you must be a great parent. I mean, honestly, as a parent, we're probably a D, because we're not all together.
Yeah. Why do you say that? Yeah. Okay.
Well, we're not all together, because the other parents have done a lot of raising themselves, and we're not with them all the time. So it seems like a lot, but it's really not. Like, I think we have her kids on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We have mine on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So, we don't have all 5 kids together. So, I mean, my hats off are more to parents that are still together and have 4 or 5 kids, because that is a lot with no, you have no break to shuffle them off to.
Yeah.
So that is hard. I mean, otherwise, parents, I mean, we're just average parents. I mean, we're below average parents. I mean, do the best you can on a daily basis. But my wife and I we're not as organized as we probably should be. We're not as disciplined as we probably should. There are a lot of reasons why we're just average as parents, or below average.
I think a lot of parents, I think a lot of parents feel that way too. And I think that makes you a better parent than you think, because you are seeing these deficiencies, and whether you are purposeful and like, all right, I know this is deficiency, I'm going to try to get a little bit better. That there is that in your brain. You already know that. So there is times where you're trying to fix that. And I think the parents we should be worried about are the ones that are saying that they're the best parents in the world. Those are the ones where, all right, calm down.
Well, the one thing that I've learned is, we have a lady, her name's Dr. D, Dietra Hickey, and she's got a PhD, and she does couples counseling and therapy and whatever. But Dr. D once said, that social media, we're looking at everyone's highlight reel.
Oh yeah.
And so everyone, for the most part, is posting their best stuff. So we tend to look at that and compare ourselves. Like, we'll be sitting here on the couch doing nothing, and the kids will be, I don't know, playing with knives or whatever. And then you're on Facebook, you're doom scrolling on Facebook, and you're like, man, look, they're at the pumpkin patch. Why are we not at the pumpkin patch? Like, why are we such horrible parents that we're sitting here and letting our kids do whatever? And these parents are always out doing stuff with their kids. But we have to remember, it's their highlight reel. So, everyone's got good times, everyone's got bad times. And we can't compare ourselves, even though it's such a natural thing to do.
Oh yeah, natural and very easy, because you're right. When you're just sitting on the couch, and then you got to think like, yeah, why aren't we at the pumpkin patch? Oh, well, we just went there 3 weeks ago. We were there. We just didn't film it and put it on on Facebook.
It's funny because we had this debate on the air. We've had it a couple times actually, but Demetrius, my partner, he says that if you do something charity wise or something nice, or you feed a homeless person, or you go out and give coats out, or whatever your thing is, and you put it on Facebook, then you're a horrible person, and that you are you're just doing it for attention and clicks and likes and whatever. And he goes that doesn't make you a good person, it makes you a bad person. And so I tell him, I'm like, I see where you're coming from, but for me, Facebook, I mean, they call them friends. Yeah. So, you have friends on your Facebook page. So I share things that I think are cool or that I think are interesting, like I would if a friend was sitting here. Like if we're having a conversation, if we're sitting on the couch, be like, yeah, yesterday we took the kids out and we went and fed the homeless and blah, blah. It was a good time. And I feel it as the same thing. So he and I just have that disagreement to where he thinks that I'm thirsty and looking for likes and everything. And I say, no, I'm just sharing my life. And to me, I don't do that every day. So that's something interesting. So that's something I think that people that follow me would be interested to see. So I put it on there. And it's funny, we have a lady on the show, Kelly Latz, and she has a charity. And she said, and actually she posts things on there when she's giving out coats or doing whatever, and it spurs more people to give. So in the end, if you're even if you're doing it because you want the attaboys, but it helps other people help, where's the harm?
Yeah. And there are some of those people who, like, their TikToks, I watch them. There's this guy who goes to a restaurant and he says, hey, can I get 40 pizzas? And he's like, yeah, I'm feeding the homeless. And 9 times out of 10, they give him a really good deal, or they give him the food or something. Mm-hmm. And then there's always people in the comments like, well, why are you filming this? Like, well, part of the reason this guy that's filming is so successful is because people know him and will either give him money to help or will go, like you said, go out and help him themselves. But these videos are successful not just because he's doing it, but that's what do you think he's doing with the money? A lot of the money's going back into this and feeding the homeless or helping these people or doing whatever. So there is like if I don't do these videos, then I'm not going to have this money to do these things,
Right, exactly. So then less people are getting helped. So how is that a bad thing?
Yeah. I don't know. Like you said, I can see where he's coming from, but I'm I think I'm on the other side. I agree.
Yeah.
How often when you guys are doing the radio, how often do these discussions, I'll call them discussions, maybe they could be arguments. I know you guys have like timed, but like where you just can't get away from it, and it's just like rolling into these other things. You're like, it just doesn't, you just can't, or it continues the next day. I'm assuming there's some of those from time to time.
We don't get a lot that the great thing about where I'm at in life, we don't own the radio station, but we own the morning show. So I mean, if we've got we have a tentative schedule or a tentative, hey, we're supposed to take the break at this time. Yeah. But if we blow through breaks, we blow through breaks. If we're having a great conversation, I'm not gonna stop the conversation. There's times where we go an hour and not take any of our commercial breaks, because we can do that. Our advertisers are very loyal, and they've been with us, and they trust that we're going to help them the best we can to get the message out. And so we really have the freedom to do just about anything we want, which I think is way different from most people. We don't play any music on the show for the most part, and so it's 3 hours of conversation with commercial breaks. And nowadays in radio, they're like, oh, you got to play music, you can't talk that much, people don't want to hear, TikTok 5 minutes, blah blah blah, 3 minutes, 90 seconds. Well, that's not our thing. And you just got to do what makes you happy. And I mean, I think I know we come up with compelling content, and some people are going to like it, some people aren't going to like it. That's just kind of the way it is. I've been doing this long enough to where it doesn't really matter to me. I just know that if I'm having fun and we're having fun together, that's why we all do it. None of us are getting paid, and we're getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning. Because we love doing it. And I think people will vibe that love of us doing it, and they listen and they get involved, and I think it works.
Do you guys do it all do it from your homes?
Everyone comes to my house every day.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. Right. So the studio is here, and we do it all in studio. So nice. Everyone comes in, so it's nice. I mean, it's a big commitment for people, and luckily, they like doing it too. And, because it's just not the same on Zoom. We did it during COVID. During COVID, we did it like that, and you just don't get the same vibe as when you're all in studio.
You mentioned you have guests and stuff. Do people call in the show? And you guys do those too?
Yeah, we take calls, we take text messages, so a little bit of everything. And we go where people live, as far as we're on the radio if they want to turn it on. We have an app where we podcast it so they can get it on demand whenever they want. So we try to make it people can consume it wherever is convenient for them. But when it comes to advertisers, they still are in this area anyway. They're still stuck on, if you're not on the air, they're not gonna write you a check. So I mean, we stay on the air because for some reason they get that is some legitimacy, which it really isn't. I mean, if you want the show, you can get it on your app, and you can get it on it's the same show whether you get it on or on demand, wherever you get your podcast. But for some reason, when it comes to advertiser mindset, you have to be on the air, actually on your car radio for them to write a check. So that's why we play that game. That's the only reason we play that game.
Because it'd be a lot easier to just throw out podcasts,
I mean, you have a radio in your pocket. Like, why do you have to have it on why does it have to be on 107.7? But and people's mindset in this area still, I mean, that's changing quickly, obviously, we know. And I don't know how quick it's gonna change, but in this area we're about 10 years behind, I think.
I would like, and maybe this is something we can talk about. I would like, because I work for the Metro Parks, and especially for me, I work downtown Glass City on the east side, and we are expanding. And
you're part of the ribbon, right?
Yes, that's the park that I work at.
We had a convo this week on the air about it. It was just how good downtown Toledo is getting their shit together.
It's a lot of fun to be a part of it, I tell you that.
Oh, I bet. And I always say though, that I wish the casino would have been out there, like over there by International Park. So you have the docks, you have the casino, you have the ribbon, you've got those new apartments. I mean, you put an amphitheater there. I mean, I think the casino missed out a little bit, but I know that was a lot of politics in there. But the downtown town, man, is really doing well. When I first got to town, they always said downtown revitalization, and it. People say, "Oh yeah, sure," but it is happening, and it's they're doing a great job.
We saw just based when the park opened last June, and since then, a bank has popped up on the east side on Front Street. There's a Burger King that redid their building. I think there's plans to get Front Street redone. Like people are putting in efforts because if they see what's there, and it's no secret now that the Metro Parks is getting International Park from the city of Toledo. So we got big plans for that. It's going to be a few years before that starts, but just seeing the plans, the first set of plans, there's some really cool stuff that we are trying to do. So it's just being a part of it. But in order to do that, not only do we need staff, but we also need volunteers. And maybe I can partner with you and come on from time to time and just talk about volunteer opportunities and stuff that we have at the metro parks, specifically downtown, because that's where I'm at. And we have a lot of need for that, especially as glamorous as it sounds. Garbage pickup is something that we need a lot of, and people come out and volunteer for that. So
that's awesome.
The more we can get out there, big groups too. We're always looking for big groups, that kind of stuff. But we can discuss this off the podcast. But I like.
And the other thing too is even if you get off, if you look at the east side there, and you get off Main Street, go down a little further. I mean, they're even cleaning up down where Frankie's and stuff are.
Yeah,
so hopefully the vibe is going to keep hitting a little further and a little further. And I'm super proud of downtown and what it's become over the last, and watch it evolve over the last 20 years.
Yeah, it's very cool. And like I said, to be a part of it, to be right there, like, makes it even better. I always see when either Metro Parks or the news is doing a story of the Metro Parks, the comments, there's always gonna be negative comments, but I always tell my staff, I go, I guarantee those people don't even live in Toledo. Like, they just they live out in these outskirts and have this vision of what Toledo is like or was like, and they're just not there. And
I got to tell you, man, when I was going through my legal issues, which back in 2010, and every day the news is doing a story on me. They find a reason to do a story or whatever, and then you look at the comments and you'd be like, man, oh, come here, what's wrong? What's your problem? Come here, hold on, come say hi. Come here, poke your head in. Come on, right there. You don't know what a camera is?
Oh. Hello.
Hi.
What are you doing? Josie said Dad was on air, but I didn't know what she meant.
We're doing hi, baby. We're doing a podcast.
Oh, okay.
All right. I'll see you. You smell good. I'll see you in a little while. I love you. So when 10 years ago, or back in 2010, when I was going through my legal issues, and the news would post a story, and then you start looking at those comments, and you're like, man, people hate me. Holy crap. And then my wife at the time, I didn't leave the house for like 2 months. I was just like, well, obviously, the whole world hates me.
Yeah.
And she said at some point, you're going to have to go do what you've always done and just live like, man, I'm not going out in that. Look at these comments.
Yeah.
And then you do start to get out and you're like, wow, the average person, everyone doesn't hate you. And, and people are saying hi, and you have to realize, you can't. And for the average person, it's hard for them to not focus on the negative comments. But because I think what I've been through, it's easy for me not to, because I know it's such a small minority of people. You got to think, if a post is seen by 5 or 10,000 people and there's 10 negative comments, I mean, what small percentage is it? I don't even know, but it's a small ass percentage. Yep. And that's the way it is. And then the other thing I would say about that is, if you look at Facebook, you can even post, man, puppies are fluffy, and there's gonna be some asshole on there that's gonna have some stupid thing to say. Oh, puppies are nowhere near kitties. And I'm like, oh, stop.
Yeah.
Some people are just so miserable. Bye, baby. Have fun with Maisie. I love you. Some people are just so miserable that they're going to find it. And then, unfortunately, as an average citizen, people will focus on those negative comments, which I've gotten away from a long time ago.
Well, Andrew, I don't want to take up any more time, but I do appreciate you coming on here. And as you mentioned earlier, being Toledo famous, this was a cool thing for me too. Like I said, I grew up, to me, you are famous, and it's a cool thing to be able to, sit down and talk to you and have you on my podcast. So thank you.
And we'll have to bring you on our show, and then you ever want to have me back, man? It's I'm at the house. It's easy.
Sounds good. Thanks again.
All right, Lorenzo, let's talk to you later.
Yep. Bye. Thank you to Andrew Z for coming on the podcast today. It was a great podcast. Obviously, similar media, so it was cool to talk about how he does things, where he got to start, all the different moves, going through his divorce and legal troubles. So it's cool to talk about all that, and then what he's doing now, doing radio for funsies. So thanks again to Andrew Z for doing that. Thanks to all of you for always listening, downloading, subscribing to the podcast. It is growing, and we'll continue to grow because of all of you. Check out the TikToks I'm making. Search the Nerdball Pod on TikTok. Those are coming out hot. I am enjoying making those. It is fun, and I have more time. And I promised, I don't know if I promised, but that's what I'm doing. I said I would do it, so I'm doing it finally. So continue to check those out. Reach out to us if you'd like to be a sponsor or just have your name said or shout out to somebody. Throw some money at me at this throw some money at the podcast, and we'll get your name out there, or we'll get you a shout out. All that can be handled through any social media, through texting me if you know me, calling, email, any of that stuff. So just wherever you're at, search Nerdball Podcast, and we'll be popping up. So as always, thanks to Real JP Multimedia, Cuttlefish Graphics, Perrysburg Junior High STEM Lab, and Big Daddy Graphics for always helping out the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Ladies and gentlemen, she's back after a long hiatus. It is Lillian and the Princess Pod.
Hello.
Lillian, how you doing?
Good.
I feel weird like staring at you that way. So, but that's just what's gonna happen. Okay. You're also blurry. I think if you sit up. I don't know why it's making you blurry, but that's all right. All right. So how's things been going since you've last been on?
Good. I'm much taller now.
Is that all you have to say? Is good?
Great. I don't know what else.
I don't know. So what have you been up to? The fans want to know. All your princes and princesses.
Oh my god.
You remember that?
Oh yeah.
All right. So what have you been up to?
Baton.
Yeah. Well,
A lot.
we can't just say baton. You got to explain. People are watching and listening. You can't just go baton and then that's it. Tell them what's been happening with baton.
I have a competition in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the competitions you have had? You just had one. You had one, right?
Yeah.
What happened there? Explain.
I did good.
That's it? That's all you got to say?
But I did really good.
Well, what did you do? Like, what did you get?
It's my first time in 9 to 11. Well, my second time.
Age bracket 9 to 11?
Huh?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And I got a high point award and got first.
And what is the high point award?
I have no clue.
You don't know what it means?
Uh-uh.
Oh, okay. Cool. Good enough, I guess. And what are the categories and stuff you do?
Like, what do you mean?
Like, what do you compete in?
Events?
Yeah, events.
Oh, solo, strut, model, show, twirl, 2 baton, and 3 baton.
And you have different costumes for all those?
3 baton, 2 baton, and solo are the same. Model and strut are the same. And then my show twirl is different.
Yeah. Which one do you like the best, do you think?
My show twirl, because it's the comfiest.
Which one is that? What color is that?
It's the green and pink one.
Is that a new one?
Mm-mm.
A green and pink one?
Yeah, it's like a cheerleading because my song is fired up.
I don't remember green. Oh, green and
And-
pink, like the zombie movie you used to watch?
Yep, and my shirt says fired up.
Oh yeah, it does. What was that movie called again?
Zombies.
It was just called Zombies?
Uh-huh. Zombies 1, Zombie 2, and Zombies 3.
Oh, pretty lame titles. Huh, pretty lame. All right, what else? Anything else you want to talk about?
I just had softball today.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Do you like that, or how was that?
it was fun. I like it.
That's it, just fine.
We
huh?
played a game.
How was that game? I didn't even see it.
It was so fun. So
Yeah.
you're in a circle and like you have to hold your bat and then you'll say 1, 2, 3, go. And
Yeah.
then you have to grab the other person's bat.
Yeah.
And if it falls before you grab it, then you're out. But if you set someone up for failure, then you're out.
How do you set them up for failure? Like pushing it the other way or something?
Yeah.
Or what? Oh. Is it supposed to fall a certain way?
Some of the bats just stand up by themselves.
Okay.
If you have to get there really quick because every time if we get it, you move back a step.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
I don't know.
Is that it?
I got a Stanley.
That's a big revelation.
Uh-huh.
Stanley's.
Yeah.
All right. Now, do you want more now?
Hmm?
Or just one? Are you good with just one?
Just this one.
All right.
So I don't have to decide if I want to take it to school or not.
Yeah, God forbid. You got to figure out what Stanley to take. Big choice here. All right. Well, this has been a Princess Pod. What's your sign off? Do you remember?
Yeah. Goodbye, all my. I don't know what it is. Wait, I'm gonna do it.
Isn't it goodbye all my princesses?
Goodbye, all my princesses and princesses, and be slay all day.
Bye.